Welcome, everybody. John Arvosis here with the Arvosis Report, here to talk Ukraine. How's everybody doing? I'm actually a little tired today. Just didn't sleep well for whatever reason, but that's all right. Well, anyway, we did have a good chat this morning, but I'll start that in a second. Just waiting a minute to have the TikTokers join us. I'll start them now. I'll start them now. Yep. Big hair sticking up. All right. Mirror camera. There we go. All right. TikTokers are a coming. Woo. Oh, hey, copies. Czech Republic. How are you? Hey, Juan Carlos over on TikTok. Welcome, TikTokers. Oh, welcome, everybody. Well, as always, I'll wait a minute before we start just to let people kind of join us. Takes a minute. Although on TikTok, usually about a minute, and then everybody's on. So, hello, guys. We can talk about Kanye at the end. We'll have a Kanye update at the end since that kind of went insane last night. So we can definitely do that. Just waiting a minute for folks to arrive on TikTok and also the YouTubers, etc. Oh, it's Friday. Got actually a lot of news today, so I may cut some of it as we go on because I don't want to go too long, but there is a good chunk of news here. Just another half minute, guys. Birthday was okay. Nothing special, but cold Chicago, burr. All right, guys, I think I'm ready to start. So welcome, everybody. This is the Arvosis Report. I am John Arvosis. TikTok is in the house, exactly. Coming to you from Chicago. Normally, I come from, I'm from Chicago, but normally I beam direct to you guys from my place in Washington, D.C., but I'm visiting Mom here for the month in Chicago, so things will be a little chillier. Yes, Ginger, we're going to talk about the rumor that Vladimir Putin had a serious fall. That will be part of the larger news we talk about. This is my show I do every Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And I talk about the latest news from Ukraine for about half an hour, and then I take your guys' questions and comments, and we have a good sort of free-for-all for about half an hour just discussing the news. The way this works is on YouTube, or TikTok, excuse me, please submit your questions via the Q&A link that you will find in my profile on YouTube and everywhere else. You've got the comment box at the bottom. This is independent media. I'm doing this for free, so I would appreciate if you guys could help out. On TikTok, that means those wonderful guests that you guys, the wonderful gifts, I should say, that you guys give. You also can subscribe on TikTok and pay a monthly amount, and I get a portion of it. And I will do, thank you, great CFI. I will do special lives only for the subscribers. Did one this morning, actually, which was fun. We had about a half-hour talk about Kanye. I'll talk about Kanye at the end of the show. I promise we'll get to Kanye, but this is about Ukraine today. And there you go. And the super chats and everything else are how you guys help out on YouTube. All right, guys, let's dive right in. Actually, last thing. Thank you, Baby Shoe. Last thing to remind you all, tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S., I will be doing, thank you, James. We start the Friday with a beautiful whale on TikTok. Wave. Thank you, James, for that. That was very nice of you. And Aqualimus, thank you as well. And Kay, everybody throwing the gifts. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, guys. What was I going to say? Oh, tomorrow on my Discord, discord.aravosis.com. And I swear we're starting the Ukraine news in 2 seconds. But on the Discord tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, I will be doing my monthly or so hangout that I do with the VIP subscribers, $25 and up monthly. We've got a number of them. And I will be meeting you guys tomorrow at 2 p.m. on my Discord. Moderators are all invited as well for free, all my mods. As a thank you to you guys, go to the Discord, look at the VIP section, and you will see in the bottom of the VIP section something that says monthly video chat. So join us at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, mañana. All right, guys, let's talk. So latest news from Europe is the European Union agreed to an oil cap of Russia's oil. The idea here is to try to limit the amount of money Russia makes from oil by limiting the price to $60 a barrel. Now, this is on seaborne oil, or oil that comes across on tankers. It's not clear how this is going to work in practice. The idea is that the largest economies in the world tend to be the ones that are in charge of insurance and these kind of things for the oil tankers, right? And the idea is that if somebody basically buys the oil for a greater price than $60, for example, they would lose insurance on the package and they wouldn't want to do that. Now, one of the biggest concerns that the folks have who structured this deal, because the idea is to try to basically cut the price that Russia is able to charge to a lower price, form a cartel of consumers. The concern is that China and India will undercut it just by going to Russia anyway and paying whatever they want. And looks like China and India will do just that. So let's see what happens. Letter bombs. So you had heard about probably yesterday that a number of letter bombs were sent to Ukrainian diplomatic embassies around the world, started in Spain. And then in Spain, one also, thank you, Annie, one also went to the U.S. Embassy, one went to the Spanish Prime Minister, one went to a defense production facility that produces grenades that go to Ukraine. So lots of really weird stuff with these letter bombs. Nobody was injured. One guy got like a small injury on his finger. Well, today there were diplomatic institutions across Europe, thank you, Alex, that received what looked like blood-stained letters. Really creepy. Thank you, Al, for the flowers. Very creepy. Ukraine's embassy in Spain received a blood-stained parcel, a box. Similar packages were earlier sent to the Ukrainian diplomatic missions in Hungary, the Netherlands, Poland, Croatia, Italy, and Austria. The consulate general in Naples and Krakow, and the consulate in, I don't even know where the hell that is, BRNO. BRNO. What is that, guys? That's going to be somewhere. I'm going to guess without the vowels that it could be Poland, but I'm not sure. So, who knows? I will say this. Yeah, animal eyes is one of the things we heard as well. It sure sounds like, copy. So what is it? Is it, I forgot where you said you are. Are you in the Czech Republic? Where is BRNO? It's not in Brunei. It's the Czech Republic. Okay. It's in the Czech Republic. Okay. It sounds like the Russians, I have to say, doing it to this degree and doing it to this many cities and doing it to, at first doing it among Spain could have been a crazy person in Spain, right? But now that it's happening all over Europe, I got to tell you, it could be just a single crazy person. Thank you, Inspired Woman, for that, for the hedgehog. Whoa. Oh, Jay, that's cool. I say Jay Waldman, I'm going to guess. Oh, no, that's very cool. Thank you for the Golden Gate. That was, I also know that was a very generous gift. I'm not up on all the gifts, but that one I know, that was very generous of you. Thank you for that. And very cool too. Thank you. It was a nice bridge. It feels like the Russians to me. Now, one thing that's interesting, and I've got to call her and check in with her on this. My friend Marion, who is an expert in Russian law, and actually really interesting. Marion went and worked in Russia for like a year, and then studied Russian law, and literally Russian law. Like Marion, we were over in Russia, and Marion was translating for me with government officials discussing the law. She could debate the Russian Constitution and Russian laws in Russian. I'm fluent in a number of languages, nothing like that. In any case, Marion had said to me once how when she was working in Russia for a year, she was working with USIA, basically doing this kind of Soviet Union, actually, she was in for about 7 months. Thank you, Harold. And doing this, where basically, I want to say whether it was a rural agriculture tour or something like that, and they would meet regular Russians, and they were warned that basically the KGB would send people to try to trip them up. And I remember what Marion had said, that one of the weird things they would do is, I don't know if you're here right now, Marion, you can weigh in, but they would ask really bizarre questions out of left field. And I think she said one of them, for example, sorry, my nose is itching tonight with my allergies. One of them was, is the moon the same in America as it is in Russia? Thank you, Inspired Woman. And she said that she was warned about this, that basically something crazy out of left field that makes you go like, wait, what? Right? And honestly, I will say this, we get this with the trolls. I've seen this with the trolls, and I've seen things that people throw where all of a sudden there's some weird left field thing. Like, okay, for example, yesterday, some guy weighed in yesterday in the comments and goes, "You're licking your lips a lot." And I am, because my lips are chapped, but it was such a weird thing to throw in. And it's the kind of thing where, as a presenter, if you read it, it kind of catches you and you go, wait, what? Right? It's thank you, Bonnie, for that. It's something it's a mind, exactly. Addie is saying a mind game. It's a mind game. it's meant to play with you. Your English is pretty good. That would be a perfect example, actually. That would be a perfect example, exactly. But it's in any case. Oh, thank you, Tattooed. Oh, we got another whale. It's a whale night. Wave, wave, whale wave. And thank you, Maya, for the hearts as well, or for the bullseye hearts. In any case, I'm just mentioning that it makes me wonder about this weird thing with embassies across Europe receiving, bloody eyes or whatever the heck they're receiving. It's the kind of creepy thing the Russians would do just to shake things up, just to play, kind of a creepy psychological warfare kind of game. It might not be, but I'm only putting it out there because I could see somebody saying, could it be the Russians? Saying, well, why would the Russians do something that bizarre? They do something that bizarre because that's one of the things they do to, mind F you. I won't use the word. We're being G-rated for TikTok and YouTube. But to mind F you, just to do something totally bizarre to weird you out. Let's go on. So very strange story. Oh, thank you for the fireworks, Kim. That's another one that I know, by the way, is a very generous gift, as is the hot dog. So thank you, Drew, for that too. There was a very weird story today about Vladimir Putin suffering a serious fall at his home. Thank you, Drew. And who was that? Hang on. Oh, there it is. Harold. Thank you, Harold, for the soccer ball. That Putin suffered some kind of a weird fall at his home. And it was so serious. I don't know, he fell down some stairs or something. And it was so serious that, and because of his cancer, alleged cancer, we don't know that any of this is true. It was so serious that when the security came to find him, he had basically gone to the bathroom all over himself, right? Now, I heard this story, a couple different things going on here. The story has not been published anywhere serious, okay? It was published in the New York Post. The New York Post, and actually, I looked at the source. The source was thank you, Hazel. The source was a Telegram channel that a lot of people believe, but it was a social media channel, right? It wasn't like a good newspaper. There's papers like the New York Post and some others that pick that channel up and report what they say as stories, even though they're not really stories. The fact that nobody real in the media is reporting it should make you wonder. I did find Sky News mentioned it, but Sky News did the right thing. Sky News mentioned it and said, look, there's a story that keeps going, a rumor that keeps going around. Thank you, Sinnet. A rumor that keeps going around, but we have no information to corroborate it, right? So I thought that was a good way that Sky News handled it. I will tell you this, and now a bit of a funny aspect of the story. I will tell you this, and we're talking about this story that, allegedly Putin had fallen down a series of stairs today, and he had so injured himself that he basically did number 2 all over himself, right? This could easily be a misinformation story put out by either a Western intelligence service or by the Ukrainian intelligence services. This is the kind of thing that you would put out in order to just, remember how we just talked about how the Russians like to play games with our psychological games with us? We like to play psychological games with them too. And this is the kind of story you put out there, thank you, Bonnie, to just embarrass Putin, because it is embarrassing. Carlos Bond, thank you, Carlos. It's the kind of thing that Putin will find out that the story's out there. The story's everywhere, even though it's not being covered in the big press. The rumor's everywhere. He's going to find out, and it's going to tick him off. And the idea here is just to play mind games with Putin. I wouldn't be surprised if we did it. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody amongst the, Europe, among NATO did it. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Ukrainians who did it, because actually, thank you, Emberg, for the mariachi hat. It's exactly the kind of thing the Ukrainians would do, because you can imagine the Ukrainians just laughing. Putin wouldn't care, but I think Putin will care. I mean, I say he wouldn't, but he would. He would. There's literally a rumor going around the world from this guy who's Mr. Macho that likes to be seen on horses with his shirt off, that he's so ill and infirm and old that he fell down the stairs and did number 2 all over himself. That's going to bother him. In any case, all I'm saying is a little background for you guys of, I think the story's made up, but it's kind of funny because it's made up to embarrass him, which is interesting. Russia, there were more reports that maybe Russia is withdrawing some troops from Zaporizhzhia. Now, Zaporizhzhia, get out your glasses. Zaporizhzhia on this map is the city is here, but the province is all the way over, is here in general. The Russians occupy the province. The Russians actually occupy all of this and this. This they stole in 2014, and then all of this they invaded this time. There are reports that the Russians are withdrawing troops around here, some troops around here, and it's possible. I was reading this from the Institute for the Study of War, which is a very good defense think tank in Washington, D.C. It's possible that the Russians are removing troops, thank you, Louis, because they are not convinced they can defend the area well enough. But it's also possible that Russia's removing the troops, and ISW said this, simply because they're trying to rotate troops and they're eventually bringing more troops in. So it's not, we don't know yet whether it's a sign that Russia's getting a little bit more worried, because the big battle has been going on in the east, near the town of Bakhmut, which is more or less over here, and here in the front in Kherson. Okay, you've got the Kherson region, which is all of this ish, and north of the river, you had, I don't know, maybe 20,000 Russian troops. South of the river, 50,000. Well, the Ukrainians did such a good job coming down here from the north. All of this is free Ukraine, right? So coming down from the north, that they pushed the Russians across the river. So that's been really good. That's where you've been hearing in the last month about the Ukrainians having a lot of success. Thank you for the llama, Ellie. And we are hearing some reports that the Russians are starting to remove some of their collaborators, the Ukrainians who are working for them, in cities like Novakhovka, which is over here on the south side of the river. So keep an eye on it is all I'm saying. It's possible the Russians are realizing that they're in some more trouble. Thank you, Paula, for the hat. And that they're going to have to start pulling back even further. But it's also possible that the Russians are simply trying to rotate their troops and put some more fresh troops there. So we don't know. Do a quick reset. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show, Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where I talk about the latest news from Ukraine, basically walk you guys through it, tell you why it matters. And then the second half of the show, we talk about I take your questions and we just sort of discuss either questions or you guys give me your opinions. On TikTok, feel free to start submitting questions now. You can go to the Q&A link that is in my profile. On YouTube and everywhere else, just use the comment box at the bottom. Please do keep the gifts coming. They support my work, whether the gifts on TikTok or the super chat questions, etc. And I think I already mentioned, I did mention, but I'll mention it really quick. Don't forget to check out, let me check here really quick, actually real quick. Don't forget to check out my Discord. Oh yeah, we've got an ongoing auction in my Discord, discord.aravosis.com. It's an online chat community in essence, and it's where a place we can sort of continue the discussion more directly. And I auction off really cool Ukrainian stuff. We've got cool patches and shirts and well, hard to see here, but I've got a number of sort of cool Ukrainian military well, you can see real quick, Ukraina, like Ukrainian military patches I'm auctioning off. I've also, I brought one downstairs because I was showing my nephew. I've got these. This is actually my favorite thing because these are these really cool Ukrainian military shirts. They're the shirts that Zelensky wears. He wears this specific green shirt that has, the Velcro on the sides, and it's got a zipper pocket. The brand is called Combat, and we're able to find the shirts. So we've been auctioning those shirts off as well, which is really cool. So go check it out. You can find all of my social media, everything, my Discord, in my links on TikTok, the link tree, or at aravosis.com, which links you to that. All right, next up. I've got a couple different stories from Institute for the Study of War, the think tank, talking about things perhaps not going so well in Russia because of the war, which is interesting. I thought it might be interesting for you guys to hear, maybe talk about it. So listen to this. Kremlin financial strain continues to feed domestic unrest. So ISW says independent Russian media outlet Astra reported that more than 100 mobilized personnel from Moscow Oblast, in other words, soldiers that were drafted, did not receive their promised payments because they were promised if they were mobilized, they would get, they're paid. I mean, they're in the military now, didn't receive their payments. Astra reported that a unit stationed in Belarus, which is a neighbor of Ukraine that's basically a puppet of the Russians, related that of its 408 members, 108 did not receive any payments in October, and 200 did not receive full payments. So in other words, thank you for that, El. A quarter did not receive any payments in October, and 200 did not receive full payments. I'm not sure what they mean by that, whether they mean full payments, everything. Bottom line is you've got half the troops that didn't get some money and a quarter that didn't get any. And these guys are being, you're talking Russians. These are blue collar. These are working class people, most of these guys. These are not people who can afford to not make money. So they go to the war and they've got, their wives back home or their parents back home who they're supporting, and they're not getting money because the Russians don't have it. That starts to cause angst back home, which doesn't help the Russians in terms of domestic tranquility going forward. Now listen to this. More on Russian low troop morale, again from Institute for the Study of War. The Ukrainian General Staff Deputy Chief reported that Russian forces have had to reinforce multiple regiments in Kherson Oblast, and I will show you again. Remember, Kherson is this region here that a lot of the fighting has been going on lately, that the Ukrainians successfully pushed the Russians south of the river, okay? Oblast, the whole region is called Kherson, but the town is also called Kherson. The town of Kherson was abandoned by the Russians. The Ukrainians forced them out, but we've got the Russians still in the south here. So what they found was the Russians have had to send reinforcements to that region of Kherson because due to the high number of deserters and mobilized soldiers who refused to fight. Thank you, Diana. In other words, the Russians are literally refusing to fight, and other Russians are just walking off and going away, and they've had to send more people there to fight now. He added that Russian security forces have reported an increased number of deserters in Luhansk. Luhansk is the province out here in the east, right next door to Russia, so very far away from here. They're having problems out here as well with deserters. Many of them are trying to cross the border to sneak back into Russia. Independent Russian media outlet Astro reported that Russian forces have held around 90 of the mobilized personnel who refused to fight in Luhansk at a children's camp in the north for over a month. So they've got 90 soldiers in the east who are refusing to fight, and they're having to hold them at a children's camp. A Russian local media page said that the military leadership, thank you, Marcy, for that. The military leadership abandoned, this was good too, that a bunch of mobilized Russian troops were brought to the front and then abandoned by their leadership. They didn't know what to do. The thing you've got to understand with this is Russia's military doesn't operate like ours or most of Europe's or like Ukraine's now, where our militaries are actually empowered to do a lot of lower down, to do a lot of decision making on their own. So they can decide on their own, who are they going to target today? What are they going to do as a unit? The Russians, somebody very high up tells your group of men what you're doing, that's what you're doing. And if you don't have, and if it's pretty much like, imagine, the animals walking off a cliff, that's how the Russian military operates. So this is we've heard this story before. They are bringing these poor, newly mobilized guys, these newly drafted guys, and they're bringing them to the front in Ukraine and dropping them off. Exactly. We have the NCOs. They're dropping them off and leaving. And these guys are sitting there. They don't have military experience. They're not getting any training. They're getting like 3 days training or something. And they're just being abandoned. Thank you. It's me for the air dancer. They're just being abandoned. Well, these guys don't know what to do. And again, that's why I'm saying, like, the Russian military, they're not empowered to know what, even if they had military experience and they don't, these guys aren't empowered to know what to do. They're just abandoning them. Not great for morale. Final story. It's not funny, but it's just, the Ukrainian general staff also said Russian forces are continuing to inflict friendly fire upon themselves. Friendly fire is when your own troops shoot at your own troops, in principle, accidentally. A Russian artillery unit shelled a position of the 1st Army Corps in Kherson. Kherson, again, the region I was telling you that's down here. So the Russians shelled their own units. Again, not a great way to instill confidence here. Thank you, Happy, for the owl. Let me move on here. What do we got here? There we go. This was an interesting story today. So the U.S. is apparently going around the Middle East, thank you, it's me, and trying to find air defense technology that we can bring back to Ukraine. Thank you, Diana, for the fireworks. Let me just read this to you. The U.S. is working with Middle Eastern countries to move a handful of air defense systems to Ukraine. The chief executive of Raytheon Technologies, big defense contractor, Greg Hayes, said the U.S. plans to send National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems, NASAMS, to Ukraine in the next 3 to 6 months. There are NASAMS deployed across the Middle East, and some of our NATO allies and we, the U.S., are actually working with a couple of Middle Eastern countries that currently employ NASAMS and trying to direct those back to Ukraine. So basically, we've got these air defense systems that we provided to allies in the Middle East, and we are talking to the allies in the Middle East to basically get our weapons back to give them to Ukraine for the time being. Which is good. I mean, it's good because it shows that the U.S. and our NATO allies are being creative and still trying to find additional ways of getting these air defense to Ukraine, which again, like I said, is good. Just to remind you, I am John Aravosis. Welcome if you're coming here new. This is my my daily show, the Aravosis Report. Comes to you every Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. I talk about the latest news from Ukraine for about half an hour or so, and then we do question and answer from you guys. You can submit questions on TikTok via the Q&A link at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Nancy, for the stars. Those are very cool. You can submit it in the Q&A link in my profile. On YouTube, you can use and all the other services, you can use the comment box at the bottom. Please do keep the gifts coming on TikTok. That's how I support my work, believe it or not. Your guys' support. Thank you as well for the gifts on YouTube, the super chat. And, I was going to say, and I've got a Patreon. Definitely go check out my Patreon too. There's two things with the Patreon. Patreon is a way of just supporting my work. You can go, it's patreon.com/Aravosis. You can find the link in my profile on TikTok. Just click the link, and one of the things shows you Patreon. You guys can just go to aravosis.com. Again, one of the things on that page is Patreon. You can just donate $5 a month, and it works that way if you want. The other way you can do it is you can link your Patreon to my Discord, and it gives you other benefits such as the auction. There's a separate auction for people who are paid donors. I've also got a special get-together for people who donate $25 a month or more, who we are doing tomorrow, a special chat, a video chat that I'm doing just for those guys tomorrow for about half hour, maybe an hour. We'll see how it goes. But that's what you can do with the Patreon, but please do go check it out, patreon.com/Aravosis. Ukraine's GDP, Ukraine's economy. I wanted to bring this up because we've been talking the last few days how Russia's economy was or wasn't being affected by sanctions. And I mentioned that Ukraine's, I had heard, was dropping by about 25% this year. The latest figure, according to the Ukrainians, is 32 to 33.5%. So pretty much Ukraine's economy is going to shrink by a third this year because of the war. That's huge. I mean, that's a very big, that's a very large amount. Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, let me show you here. As I told you, my allergies are acting up today for whatever crazy reason. Zaporizhzhia, the region is called Zaporizhzhia, the main town is called Zaporizhzhia, and the nuclear plant, I'll get really close here. You follow the river, the nuclear plant is where the river jumps up here. So you can see the town, I think it's Nikopol, kitty corner from Nikopol across the water. Right on here at the very tip is was it Enerhodar, I think the name of the town, but the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant is here. It is currently under Russian occupation. Well, the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the UN agency in charge of nuclear energy, says that they've been negotiating with the Russians and the Ukrainians, and they think, oh, thank you, Louie, especially the ka-ching. They think that they are close to reaching a deal to demilitarize the region around the plant because the Russians keep blowing it up. I mean, they haven't blown up the plant yet, but the Russians keep trying to basically blow up the nuclear plant. It's really creepy. It's very difficult to blow up a nuclear plant. The conventional wisdom has always been, but apparently it's true, is that nuclear plants are built to sustain a direct hit from a 747, from a jetliner, okay? And that's smart and good. The issue is that to keep a nuclear plant from melting down, because, right, you've got the fuel rods, lots of heat being generated. To keep them from overheating, they are sitting in water, and the water is used to help cool them down. Well, the cooling system needs energy, needs electricity to keep it going. The Russians keep hitting the cooling system and knocking it out. And the Ukrainians keep having to rely on a backup system made from diesel generators, 20 diesel generators. The concern is, we've repeatedly have to go use the diesel generators. What happens if the diesel generators don't work? What happens if the diesel generators get hit? Right? What happens if they run out of fuel? Then you're going to have a nuclear meltdown. And the Russians, at this point, pretty clear the Russians are doing this on purpose. Oh, that's interesting. Ben is saying they tested nuclear plants after 9/11 to make sure that a plane couldn't blow them up. Yeah, there you go. So let's see. I would be surprised if the Russians agreed to anything to try to make the area around this nuclear plant demilitarized, meaning because it's the Russians that are occupying the area. Why would the Russians leave the plant? Right? It's like 20% of Ukraine's energy. It's the largest nuclear plant in Europe. Why wouldn't Russia just sit on it, control it? Russia, by the way, one of the thoughts is that Russia wants to actually steal the nuclear plant and just tie it into Russia's electrical grid. So the plant, 20% of the energy, that 20% that goes to Ukraine is gone entirely and goes to Russia instead. Right? So I don't really understand why the Russians would agree to demilitarize the nuclear plant. I mean, because they're jerks. It's if they were nice people, they might do it. So I'm not convinced the story is real, but I'm not convinced the UN's hope here is valid. Belarus, this was interesting too. I may make this the last story I talk about real quick. So Belarus, this is very interesting. Belarus is, here's Ukraine, country up here, okay? Russia is pretty much over here. Belarus here, Poland here, other NATO allies, Romania, and everybody over here, okay? Poland here, Belarus. Belarus is a country run by maybe I headed over too far. Belarus, country run by a dictator up here. Dictator's named Lukashenko. Big friend of Putin. The Russians, when they invaded Ukraine, they brought some of their troops down through, they came through here. They brought some of the troops down through Belarus as well. The Russians still have troops in Belarus, and there's been concern about whether the Belarusians are planning on invading Ukraine, right? Now, I think we pretty much know that Putin would love to have Belarus invade. Why? Because Ukraine currently, the war is being fought along here. Basically, this is Russia's occupation here, and the war is being fought along the occupation, along the line between the Russians and the Ukrainians. What gets interesting is this is all over here. Belarus is all the way up here. That's a big distance. If you're the Ukrainians, you don't want to have to fight all the way up here too, because you're really splitting your military in half, or maybe not half, but 20% would have to go here and fight. So the Russians really want the Belarusians to invade here. The Belarusians really don't want to. Lukashenko, it's not clear that he's in very strong condition or very strong position, able to defend his country. And he really doesn't want his troops in Ukraine when he has to worry about being overthrown at home. He's a dictator. So that's what's going on. Now, the one thing I will say is, and this was from Institute for the Study, put a little chapstick on, Institute for the Study of War. ISW said they think the Belarusians are basically making up excuses so that they don't have to invade, excuses that they give Putin. Listen to this. This I thought was very interesting. Lukashenko is likely focused. Lukashenko has been talking about NATO aggression on the border and how he's very worried about NATO and NATO possibly invading Belarus, right? And ISW says he's probably doing it to suggest that the Belarusian military needs to remain in Belarus to defend against potential NATO aggression, and thus set the informational conditions for resisting Russian pressure to enter the war. So in other words, he doesn't want to enter the war. He needs to keep the troops at home to protect his own dictatorship. And in order to claim why he's not doing this for Vladimir Putin, because let's remember, Vladimir Putin kills you when you don't agree with him, he's saying, Oh, NATO keeps talking about invading. NATO's not talking about invading at all. NATO keeps talking about invading. I can't invade Ukraine and move my troops down here when I've got to keep my troops up here at home. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. All right. I'm going to stop with that. Germany is additional Gepard anti-aircraft tanks, so to speak. Gepard tanks to Germany. Well, they're calling them tanks. They're really not tanks. But they're anti-aircraft missiles, which is good systems. And Ukraine has received Hawk surface-to-air missile launchers from Spain. All right, that wasn't too bad. So what we do now is I switch over to questions and answers for the next 25 minutes. You guys can submit questions on TikTok or go to my profile, look for the Q&A link. The rest of you obviously use the comments at the bottom. Keep the gifts coming. You can also support my work. Just go to aravosis.com. You'll find all of my links there. Venmo, PayPal, Patreon, Discord, my store. I've got a store set up too. I keep forgetting to tell you. I've got a store set up with really cool kind of Ukrainian themed stuff. Half the money from the store goes to support Ukrainian humanitarian work. Half of it goes to basically support my work doing this for you guys. Same thing for the auctions over on Discord. Half the money from the auctions we channel right back into Ukrainian humanitarian work, and half the money goes to support me. So please check out all of those links in my profile or aravosis.com. All right, guys. Let's go now. Does ship to EU? Yes. I've been doing it. The auction we've been shipping to EU, and the store does. Obviously not cheap because both are coming from America. Just be aware, But yes, does ship to the EU. That's a really cool TikTok account. This guy's a voice actor and he does amazing stuff. Whenever I go into TikTok to try to pull up the questions, of course, TikTok defaults to a video because it's TikTok. All right, here we go. Q&A. Do you know anything about the air forces Russia is putting near the border? No. Russia has done a really bad job with their air force throughout this whole war. Russia's plan, and we found out some of this yesterday, but we knew this would have been the case anyway. Russia's plan was to have a massive air invasion at the beginning in the first couple days. Is that the guy? Is it the? I'm trying to think. I was trying to see. No, this is Sean Adams. He's really good too. Sean Adams, amazing voice actor on TikTok. I love watching him. But the Russians had planned to launch cruise missiles all over Ukraine and bombings, like from airplanes. I'd like to get somebody from the Air Force to explain what the hell's going on. The Russians have not been able to get air superiority or air supremacy over Ukraine. It's been crazy. Thank you, dear Benji. They and the Ukrainians kind of go back and forth. The Ukrainians are still able to bomb. The Ukrainians lose some of their weapons. So the Ukrainians themselves do not control all of the airspace, but the Russians don't either. And it's been really crazy. The Russian airplanes are not being able to do much. Now, what you'll find the Russians doing, which is really wimpy, and it shows to what degree the Russians have not been able to control their airspace. The Russians are basically like flying their planes in Russia and then shooting missiles from the planes hundreds of miles away and then hitting Ukraine. But it shows you how poorly they're doing, that they can't even fly in Ukrainian air. I mean, in Iraq, both wars, the good Iraq war and the bad Iraq war, both of them, the U.S. had, air supremacy like right away. I mean, we came in, we knocked everything out, and you fly and you use your jets and your bombers to really cause mayhem on the ground. The Russians can't do it. Just can't do it. I'm not sure why the sold out stuff is still being shown. I'm not really sort of selling the sold out stuff anymore, but for some reason it popped back up and I'm not sure. So at this point, I'm not bringing it. I'll look again and see what I've got there and consider launching it again. I'll consider it. Any case, I did see this. It's awful. Ben is bringing up on TikTok. It's a good thing. We definitely can talk about it. I read this today. I was kind of ticked off. So the British ambassador, the former British ambassador to Russia, said today that it's very dangerous for Ukraine to want to get Crimea back, and that it's better to freeze the issue for 10 to 20 years and because maybe what Ben is saying, but I read the same story, because Putin may get angry if Ukraine tries to take Crimea back, and then he'll use his nuclear weapons. Now, I think this former British ambassador has gone native, as we say, and it's an expression that's used in the Foreign Service and other places for diplomats who work too long in a country, and they actually start to, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome in a way where they become too sympathetic to the country and they're no longer representing their own country's interests. Now, Crimea, okay, down here. Crimea is a Ukrainian territory when the Russians invaded in 2014 and stole Crimea. Now, just to give you a little more, at the time, the Ukrainians had a president who was corrupt, in bed with Russia. Ukraine was going to enter a economic agreement with the European Union, and the Russians put pressure on this guy because he's a Russian puppet, basically, and said, no, kill the deal. So he killed the deal. Well, the Ukrainian people rose up and went, what are you talking about? Like, this is, this was part of not just a great economic deal, but it was part of Ukraine's growing connection to Europe, right? Becoming Ukraine is a part of Europe, but part of sort of the European economic engine, right? And again, pulling away from the Russian orbit, Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, which basically was dominated by the Russians, okay? And oppressed by the Russians, by the way. The Ukrainian nationality, totally oppressed. The language, oppressed. Well, Russia invades in 2014 because their stooge in Ukraine gets overthrown. The Russians get pissed off, so they invade and steal Crimea. Now Russia controls all of this. The British ambassador, the former ambassador to Russia, says today, Putin has made clear he really cares about Crimea, that territory in the south, and he considers it really important to, this is funny, my friend Dylan loves to text me whenever I'm on with you guys, it cracks me up. It's really important, trying to find my shoes as I'm talking to you, there we go. Crimea is really important to him, and if the Ukrainians try to take it back, I don't know what he'll do. I think he might use nuclear weapons. And the Ukrainians should just put it off for 10 or 20 years. Let me put it this way. Southwestern England is occupied by the Russians, and the Russians really feel like Southwestern England belongs to them. Shouldn't we just give it to them, maybe for 20 years, because they'll get really angry if we try to take, if the Brits try to take it back, or Alaska, or Maine, or Florida. This is something I've talked about from the beginning, and it pisses me off because we have enabled Russia and Putin from the beginning. Okay, we have, thank you, Al, for the origami. We have treated this war as though Putin's crazy, right? Putin's crazy. He'll go nuclear at any moment. Biden from the beginning, and I always say this, and I have to say, Biden has done a great job with the war. Biden has brought together, and I don't want to take credit away from the rest of the world, but Biden really, this is where the U.S. leadership made a difference, right? He stepped up. He was able to bring the world together and have this great international coalition, hugely important. And frankly, the U.S. has provided a lot of weapons and a lot of money. Now, some European countries have provided more per capita, either per capita or per GDP, I forget. But basically, as a proportion of how big they are, the European countries such as Poland, and I think it's Estonia, have actually provided more than the U.S. based on their size, okay? But the U.S. otherwise has provided really a lot. Having said that, Biden from the beginning has always talked about, and I brought this up from the beginning, and people on the left get pissed when I say this, but that's okay, because people on the right get pissed when I say Biden's doing a good job. So, what do you do? Biden has said from the beginning, we have to be really careful because if we piss Putin off, it'll be World War III. World War III in American parlance, probably in British parlance as well, Anglophone, World War III means nuclear war, the end of the world. It doesn't just mean the war that follows World War II. It literally means the end of the world, nuclear Armageddon. Biden kept saying this, and he kept saying it in the context of we can't piss Putin off. Right? We've got to be careful with Putin. He said it in the context of we can't give those fighter jets to Ukraine that we wanted to give. Remember the MiG fighter jets that the Poles wanted to give from Poland? And the US and Germany both freaked out, and Biden talked about World War III. He has repeatedly done this, and it ticks me off. And we're not giving Ukraine the long-range missiles they want because of World War III, and we're doing it again on Crimea. And I guarantee you, Biden feels the same way on Crimea, but he's not going to say it. And this British ambassador is saying it, that we don't want to have the Ukrainians try to get all of their territory back because, and I love this, because Putin claims that this part of Crimea is really Russia. And this is where we make the mistake. Putin thinks that because we sat on our butts in 2014. Now, it's a long story as to this. The Ukrainians were not in a position to fight back when Putin invaded. They have massively beefed up their military training, and NATO stepped in, NATO countries, and did massive training of the Ukrainian military since 2014. They are an entirely different military than they were back then. But at the time, the Ukrainian military just wasn't able, to invade against Russia and kick the Russians out. But we didn't do a hell of a lot either when it happened, right? We had some sanctions or whatever. We didn't do a hell of a lot either. And let me put it this way. With Putin, what we should have said from the beginning was, again, no, it's not Russia, it's Ukrainian, and the Ukrainians have every right to go there, and don't even think of talking about nuclear weapons, because if you use nuclear weapons, it's going to be the end of the world for you. And rather than have us sit there and always worry and go, oh my God, what are the Russians doing? Would the Russians who use nukes, would it be World War III? We have to turn it around on them and say, make the Russians worry about World War III with us. Because I got news for you. The reason I say this is, and I mean, it's dangerous. I realize all this is dangerous, but the Russians can't afford nuclear war any more than we can. No one will win a nuclear war. We know it, and Russia knows it, but we pretend like Russia doesn't know it. We pretend like we're the only ones who can't afford a nuclear war. Russia can't either, and they know it. And we ought to throw it back at them. I would throw it back at them publicly and go, you know damn well we all die in a nuclear war. You're not going to use your nukes. Because if you do, we are stepping into this war. And by the way, the second point, you can't even beat Ukraine. You cannot even beat Ukraine. You think you want the United States and NATO to enter this war, which we will do if you use a nuclear weapon. We will absolutely enter the war. But you can't beat Ukraine, and you think you're going to beat all 30, mind you, 32 any day soon now with Sweden and Finland. You're going to beat 32 NATO countries, including the United States. Thank you, G-Dub. Including the United States, the British, the French, the Germans. They piss me off, but the Germans. Norway, Poland. You can't beat it. They couldn't beat any of these countries, let alone all of them. Again, just America on its own. You're going to go to war with America? Good luck with that. Again, you can't beat Ukraine. I don't mean to knock Ukraine by saying you can't beat Ukraine, but the point is they can't beat Ukraine. What would happen if you threw America and all the other powers in? Russia would. And the thing is, Russia knows this. Putin knows this. And we need to call them out on it publicly and say, not only would we kick your butt, we would kick your butt. So we know that actually, rather than us, thank you, Bonnie, rather than us be the ones, rather than we be the one, I always forget that, rather than it be us or we be the ones who are afraid of going to war with you, maybe you should be a little more afraid of going to war with us. And it doesn't mean we want to go to war with Russia, but you kind of get in. So with this whole thing, again, we should have gone around to Russia and said, I mean, we said it, but we haven't really said it. We need to keep saying it. It's Ukrainian. You stole it, and it is their right to take it back militarily, and we will help them until the end of days. And so help me God, you better keep the battle conventional, because if you use a nuke or anything similar, like biological or chemical weapons, we are going to be on you like you have never seen before. And why don't you start having some nightmares? But in any case, it just pisses me off. Sorry, I want to get to more questions here. It just, like I said, it ticks me off because it was stolen. It was totally stolen. But I love that, like, we sit there and we go, oh, Putin, but this ambassador, but Putin feels like it's his. And he'd get very upset if we try to take it back from him. Well, that's just a little too bad, isn't it? It's also very dangerous to let Putin keep it, by the way, may I just say, because it sends the message that it's okay to invade your neighbors and steal their land. Maybe you should try Poland next. If NATO does enter the war, how do you think Belarus would react? If NATO enters the war, it doesn't really matter how Belarus reacts because we would destroy Belarus. Belarus doesn't have much of a military. They've got a small military and they've got an awful military. So, I mean, we hope we don't. I mean, I hope there isn't a larger war that we enter. But if there is, no offense to say this, but it's sort of like saying, if NATO enters the war, what do we do about Jamaica? No offense, Jamaica, but I mean, nobody cares. Nobody does not even matter what Belarus does, because we'd come in and bomb their military and it would be over. So yeah, not going to happen. Honestly, Belarus might even surrender. I could see the Belarusian dictator kind of going, okay, I'm out of here. I wasn't very happy. I did not want to get sucked into this war anyway, but now you're at war with NATO. Like, the last thing I need is for Poland to come in and take half my country. Bye-bye, right? We're out of here. So, right, Kaliningrad too. Port of Sevastopol is what this whole thing is about. Not sure what you're, of course. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, there's a number of things going on here. I mean, Sevastopol is the big military port here in the southwestern part of Crimea. Okay, it's the home of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. The Russians really want that port. They really want that port. It's just hugely important to them. But it is also this whole historical thing of the Russians getting pissed off that, what was it, Stalin that gave Crimea back to Ukraine and all this kind of stuff, and they just get pissed off about it. I think it was Stalin. It wasn't what's his face, right? It was Stalin. It wasn't Shoe Stomper. But the Khrushchev, was it Khrushchev? That's what I was asking. Was it Khrushchev? I always thought it was Stalin. I'm forgetting now. Khrushchev was the Shoe Stomper that got pissed at Kennedy. But in any case, yes. Khrushchev. Okay, it was Khrushchev. That's interesting. Okay. I did not see this. Somebody's asking, did you see the Guardian interview with Timothy Snyder where he says Russia wins by losing? I didn't see the interview, so I don't know what he's actually, or what his argument is, though. No. If the Russians do manage to get NATO to enter the war, I see. That was probably the question that you followed up earlier. God. Interesting question. I mean, what do you think would have happened if Trump were president when Ukraine was invaded? I mean, look, Trump would have had a couple things here. Trump would have been in a weird situation because even though Trump has a creepy affinity for Putin and Russia and weird contacts with Russia, he also increasingly didn't really have a choice but to stand up to Russia, in part because, look, Trump, ironically, was very freaked out about all of the talk of his ties to Russia. The reason Trump keeps talking about the Russia hoax is because it freaks him out that he's being tarred with it. Now, I think Trump is being, when I say tarred, I think Trump is being legitimately accused of having very creepy ties to Russia, to Putin, and genuflecting to Putin. Not even I think. We know this from the Helsinki summit that Trump and Putin had when Trump came out and defended Putin and the whole world was watching going, what are you doing, right? Trump has a very creepy relationship. But because of this, for whatever reason, it was getting under Trump's skin. Thank you, G-Dub, for that. It was getting under Trump's skin. And he therefore started to distance himself. They started to have some sanctions against Russia, things like this, cutting our diplomatic personnel. Although, when we had the U.S. diplomatic personnel, I'm forgetting which one it was, but when the Russians attacked a defector in England, remember when they poisoned, I guess it was, the guy and his daughter? And huge deal, because of course the Russians really shouldn't be doing this on NATO soil. And the Brits and Western Europe and America, Canada too, I'm sure, kicked out a lot of Russia's diplomats. Well, Trump apparently was told that the number, something was like 240 or whatever the heck the number was. And Trump thought that was the number of diplomats overall being kicked out by everybody, but it was actually the American share. And when he found out later that the American share was like through the roof, he was livid. So Trump still kind of would play a weird game with Russia where he wouldn't want to be too fierce. But I don't know. I don't know whether Trump wouldn't have a choice. Trump wouldn't have a choice, the Skripals, wouldn't have a choice but to do something. The problem is there's no way Trump could have rallied the international community like Biden did. They hate him. He hates them. He had already burned bridges with the international community. Now, yes, the international, well, here's the problem. I mean, the French and the Germans, would they really have come around if Trump had tried to cajole them rather than Biden? Not cajole, but meaning try to influence them. Biden was able to get Macron and Scholz to agree with him on this. I don't just want to say cajole because I think it's Biden. I mean, Biden, again, for all of his faults, Biden, foreign policy is Biden's number one background going back decades, okay? Biden was able to convince Macron in France and Scholz in Germany that this was incredibly important for all of us to come together, right, and fight this. I don't think Trump could have done that. And Trump didn't believe it anyway. Trump would have said, this is Europe's fight. It's not our fight, right? There's just, who knows what he would have done? I don't think it would have been very pretty. And it certainly wouldn't have been to this degree. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Ukraine, I think, would be toast right now. Or Europe would be doing what it could. But my guess is Russia would have taken over most of Ukraine, and the Europeans would be funding a guerrilla war, and the Americans would be going, la, la, la. That would be my guess. Let me see here. Another Q&A. So I'm just looking up here. Deep. Yep, I did talk at the beginning of the show about all the creepy mail, postal bombs and maybe eyes and all sorts of crazy things that were being sent to diplomatic missions across Europe. I think it's the Russians. That's my suspicion, but who knows? Oop, hang on. There we go. Trying to pull up any more questions. Surrender is the best option for them? For who? For the Russians. All right, that's all I've got. That's all I've got here on TikTok questions. All right, guys, let me see. Does anybody, we've got like another 3 minutes here. Any more questions on TikTok, either written here or you guys here? I will say this. If anybody's got sort of any more questions on YouTube and everywhere else, feel free to post them there. Oh, I can't stand these glasses. You're funny. They're my reading glasses, but I find them too boring or whatever. Yeah, I'll do a recap in a minute. I will do a recap in a minute, but I just want to see if there's maybe another question or two. The Vietnams ever go to war? Well, the Vietnams are united now. Thank you, Lauren, for that. What else we got here? 2 mentions of Czech Republic today. Are we starting to be famous? Maybe. Thank you, Malto, for the swan. That was pretty. Thank you. Iran and China. Don't know. Was there a question about Iran and China? You know what? I'll do a quick recap because we've only got about 3 minutes. Let me do the recap where I go and I read the top stories that I talked about. And then we'll talk about Kanye for a few minutes, okay? And then remember, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time U.S. in my Discord, thank you, Malto, for that. That I know that's a very generous gift, so thank you for that. And thank you, Janice, for the pause. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, my leg's itching. 2 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, I will be doing a special video chat on my Discord for the $25 and up VIP subscribers. So if that's any of you, and the moderators, all the moderators are welcome as well. Otherwise, the Discord is free and open to everybody overall, but I do occasionally these kind of special chats for the paid subscribers. So, all right, let me do a quick little summary here, and then we'll talk about the latest on Kanye, which is just crazy. All right, what have I got? Oops, turn my notes over. The European Union agreed to a cap on Russian oil of $60. The question now becomes, can it be enforced? The cap was meant to lower Russia's oil revenues. First, it started with letter bombs, and now across Europe, Ukrainian diplomatic missions are receiving blood-stained parcels. Nobody knows where they're coming from. My vote is Russia. Did Putin fall? That's the rumor going around today, that Putin fell, hurt himself, and when his security found him, he was laying on the ground in a basically pool of his own poop. I'm not convinced the story is true, but I think it's pretty embarrassing for Putin, and happy to share it. There were some reports that Russia may be withdrawing from parts of Zaporizhzhia and southern Ukraine, but Institute for the Study of War said Russia could be withdrawing, or they could simply be withdrawing their old troops and bringing new troops in, so we don't know. Keep an eye on it. Hang on here. My notes are all upside down. Domestic unrest. I was talking about how Russian personnel are not getting their payments. A number of Russian troops, they're getting, they're salaried troops. They need to get money, and the government has been unsuccessful in getting them their money, which is causing a lot of consternation at home. Then I talked about how a number of Russian troops have been deserting. They've been crossing the border to go back into Russia. They've been refusing to fight in a couple different parts of the country. Oh, and they were abandoned at one point. Several groups of troops, Russian troops, were just abandoned by their superiors and left to fight on their own in Ukraine with no orders and no idea what to do. Kind of funny and also very unhelpful. Thank you, Malto, for that. After pledging to provide air defense systems to Ukraine, the U.S. is working with Middle Eastern countries to move a handful of American systems over to Ukraine. Ukraine's gross domestic product is expected to drop as much as 1/3 this year due to Russia's missile strikes. The International Atomic Energy Agency over at the UN hopes for a deal on setting up a demilitarized zone around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. Belarus, the final story we did was Belarus and how it looks unlikely that Belarus will invade Ukraine, but Belarus is trying to set up, this is a Putin ally, try to set up lots of excuses to give Putin as to why Belarus can't invade, which I think is kind of funny. Germany is providing Ukraine with 7 more Gepard tanks, they're calling it, but they're anti-missile systems. Thank you, G-Dub, for that. For the woo. And Ukraine has received Hawk surface-to-air missile launchers from Spain. Okay, we can hang out for a few minutes and talk about Kanye. Let's talk about Kanye. So, I'll sit back here. So you know that, here, I'll even lower this so we have a better angle here. I propped my iPad up so there's kind of a better angle, but since I'm sitting back, this will work. So, Kanye West, lunatic that he is, a couple days ago, God, was it yesterday even? I mean, Kanye is an anti-Semite, okay? He hates Jews. And he goes and he meets with Trump last week, Thanksgiving week, yep, and brings Nick Fuentes with him to the dinner. Nick Fuentes is a Holocaust denier and virulently anti-Semitic. I mean, Kanye really hates Jews. Nick Fuentes is on another planet of how much he hates Jews. Fuentes is, for my tastes, he's the Ku Klux Klan, for my tastes. He is not somebody you disagree with. Kanye is Kanye West. He is one of the most famous American musicians in the world, rapper, superstar, billionaire. I mean, billionaire from the money he's made. Very important. African-American, which matters too, because he's got a lot of, he has a lot of influence in his own community, and it's very dangerous, super anti-Semitic. Well, Nick Fuentes, as I was saying, who Kanye now has working on Kanye's running for president, by the way, as a Republican, black Republican, and just, he's crazy. Kanye hires Nick Fuentes, the Holocaust denier, to work on his campaign with him. Now, Fuentes is, as I said, it's difficult to overstate how bad he is. Fuentes, he's not a neo-Nazi because that would require literally believing in those beliefs, but not believing those beliefs, but he pretty much, from what I know, thank you, PJ, he pretty much has the same beliefs as one. That's what I'm saying. He's not just a conservative. He's as bad as it comes. This guy uses the N-word on his shows and laughs about it. This guy makes jokes about, cooking cookies in ovens like Jews. He is horrific, this guy. Anyway, goes to dinner with Trump. Kanye gets a lot of trouble for this. Kanye has been getting a lot of trouble for his anti-Semitism anyway. Kanye gets really pissed off now because he loses his business deals with Adidas and some other companies in the last couple of weeks. He does this dinner with Trump and the Holocaust denier and causes a huge scandal. And Kanye is just pissed off at this point that he keeps getting in trouble with. Does he hate women too? I wouldn't be surprised that he keeps getting in trouble with all this stuff. So Kanye yesterday, or I think, was it yesterday, goes on Alex Jones's TV show. And a TV show. It's an internet show, not a TV show. Alex Jones, crazy far right guy who just lost 1.5. He had a 1.5 billion with a B dollar combined judgment against him. That's pretty much 1.5 billion euros. Okay, to see like how much money that is. Billion with a B. Kanye. Alex Jones has a $1.5 billion court judgment combined against him because he's famous for many things. He's crazy, but famous for claiming that the Sandy Hook massacre, which was one of our mass shootings here in America. I mean, we have them every day, but this was a particularly famous one because some young guy using the weapon of choice, which is an AR-15, which is what these guys always use and which anybody in America can buy. It's absolutely ridiculous. Goes to a grade school, goes into the classrooms of 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and kills 19 of these kids, shooting them repeatedly. Okay, this happened back 2012, I believe. Horrific story. I mean, even by the level of American carnage with guns, which happens all the time, this was a particularly horrific, literally shooting to death 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, okay, and repeatedly shooting them to make sure they're dead. Horrific story, this thing. Alex Jones claimed it was all a fake. The children were actors. It was all a fake. Well, the parents not only are freaking out because their kids are dead and this guy is saying this, but Alex Jones's fans are going and harassing the parents because Jones says it's a fake. It's the government that's trying to take your guns away. And the government created this massacre as a fake plot to take your guns away. So obviously the parents are in cahoots with the government. Their kids didn't really die. These parents are extremists trying to take your guns. So what do his fans do? His fans go and harass the parents. They went and I think, from what I recall, tried to dig up the graves of one of these kids. I mean, imagine, and mind you, it's your 5-year-old son or daughter who has been murdered in school. And this guy now has his fans calling you and harassing you and saying your kid isn't dead. And then someone tries to dig up your kid's grave. No, so this is Alex Jones, okay? Alex Jones has Kanye on yesterday. I think it was yesterday. I'm forgetting already if it was yesterday or the day before. Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Everything's happening so fast. And Kanye starts talking about the NZs. I try not to use the word directly. I'm always afraid I'm going to get into trouble on TikTok or YouTube. The NZs, you know, the Germans in World War II, the bad guys, right? The baddies. He's talking about them and says, you know, you've got to understand that the NZs weren't all bad. Hitler wasn't, I hate to use these words, but Hitler wasn't that bad. You know, the top German, he had a lot of good qualities, a lot of great qualities, really. And I forgot the words I've got to find like the exact quote because he even used like Hitler. Oh, it was Hitler. Yeah. So Hitler had a lot of great qualities. You know, people out there, they try to say that you're either good or bad, but they don't realize that you've got, that everybody's good and bad. Everyone's got good qualities. And he goes, everyone has done good things in their life, even bad people. And get this, especially Hitler. So everyone, even bad people have done good things, especially Mr. World War II German guy, right? And everyone's going, oh my God. And he's going on about the highways. Hitler built the internet, the cross-country highway system. He did not create highways. He claims Hitler invented highways. Then he claims Hitler invented the telephone. No, the telephone? No. What was he claiming? It was, The microphone I'm using today, he invented. He's like, he didn't invent this. What are you talking about? I mean, he's out of his mind. Well, Alex Jones then starts talking about, oh no, he goes, Alex Jones starts saying, well, I don't like Nazis. I mean, Alex Jones, who's the lunatic, is now jumping in and having to basically, because I think he finally realized after $1.5 billion in court damages that he had to kind of go, I'm not really a fan of. So Alex Jones, who's crazy, is jumping in and going, well, I don't really like Nazis. You're going, well, I hope not. And Kanye keeps jumping in going, he goes, I love Jews, I love Nazis. And he's saying, so both of these now, a lot of problems, by the way, with that comment, because also it's presenting Jews and Nazis as like two sides of the same coin. You know what I mean? Like, no, not really. But I love both. And Jones now is trying to get to a commercial. And again, he's like, well, Nazis, I like the Nazi thing. And you hear Kanye then says, I love Hitler, right before they go to the commercial. And it goes to the commercial. I mean, so this becomes the big news last night. I will show you guys this. I was showing it on my thing this morning. This becomes the big news last night. Kanye then goes on Twitter, and Kanye decides, I can't show you what Kanye. I can't show you. Hold on. I'm going to try to pull this up, and I'm going to hide it on my screen because I can't show you what Kanye shared. Kanye shared a Star of David, which is the religious symbol of Jews. Right? It's like there's a 6-point star, I think, a 6-point. I'm looking right here, 6-point star, and showing it with a swastika, the Nazi sign in the middle. Weirdly, he took this from the webpage of a Japanese UFO cult, right? UFOs woo, in the sky. Japanese UFO cult, but Kanye took it because he didn't say this, but clearly he loved the mixture of the Nazis and the Jews. I mean, like crazy stuff. But after everything he's been saying about Jews, this is a pretty sick picture. I'm not going to show you the picture. This is really, I can't even hear. So Kanye then posts this on Twitter, a text message he got from somebody. Check. I'm going to show you and then show you guys. This is the text message Kanye got on Twitter, not on Twitter, on his text. And at the bottom of the text message is showing the really nasty picture of the Star of David and the swastika, right? So Elon has texted Kanye to say, dude, this isn't cool, what you're doing. Like, this really isn't you've gone too far. This is not love. Kanye, in response to Elon Musk saying this privately, posts Elon Musk's text message on Twitter, okay? And then the next tweet Kanye puts up, he then posts this. That's Elon Musk getting showered down by some hot guy, but in the picture, it is a very unflattering picture of Elon Musk, okay? This is then the tweet Kanye puts up after. So Kanye is clearly pissed at Elon Musk for asking him for saying privately, dude, I think that swastika thing is really going too far, right? In response, Kanye shares the text message public and then puts a nasty picture of Elon looking fat and ugly and everything else. Well, in the meantime, many people go on Twitter. We report, I'm going to pull this up for you too. We report the Holocaust, the Star of David Nazi thing. And this is the response I get from Twitter reporting Kanye's thing, right? You can read the first paragraph right there. Show you guys, just very first paragraph from Twitter. This is Twitter's response saying, oh, nope, no violations. We've looked at it. There's no violations. Well, so I went online, published the picture, published Twitter's response and said, great. So Twitter thinks, Nazis are okay. Well, Elon gets so much crap from people, so much blowback, that Elon then goes, and clearly it was Elon, personally tells them to yank the Nazi tweet and to yank the tweet where Kanye posted the text message that Elon had sent him. So both of them are gone. So those are gone. Kanye gets frozen out of his account for 12 hours. The account is still live last night, but Kanye's frozen out. And Kanye then shares on Truth Social, Trump's Twitter alternative for crazy right people. Kanye posts a picture he writes a message and posts a picture. I guess when you get frozen out of your Twitter, when you get suspended in your Twitter account for 12 hours, because they don't always suspend you permanently. They sometimes suspend you for 12 hours to teach you a lesson. It's a timeout, right, that you give a kid. They gave Kanye a 12-hour timeout, and it's literally a ticking clock. And it showed 11 hours and 50 minutes left or something like that, right? So Kanye posts on Truth Social. Sorry, my nephew's coming in. Sorry, I'm telling the Kanye story to everybody online. So Kanye posted on Truth Social that he was locked out for 12 hours, and I went to Kanye's account, and you could still find everything there other than the 2 tweets Musk got rid of. Well, this morning, Kanye's Twitter account is gone. Not gone. I shouldn't say that. It's not gone entirely. This morning, you can go to the account, but you can't read anything. Let me pull this up and show you. Kanye West. So this morning, you go to the account and you see the account, okay? But when you try to go and see the tweets, you get this when you try to go and see the tweets. Permission denied, not authorized, okay? Oops, I'll bring this for you guys now. Now, I'm not sure what that means. Clearly, the 12-hour suspension got bigger, okay? That clearly happened. Let me pull this up again. Twitter. I'm going to pull this up. Twitter.com. So the 12-hour suspension looks like it got longer. The thing that I can't figure out here, I mean, I've been on Twitter for 14 years, but I'm going to try to pull this up, is whether this is indicative of Kanye somehow. No. See, this is what you got. Account suspended. So it looks like, I mean, it's hard to say. It looks like the account might be gone or it was suspended for a week. We don't know because Elon Musk won't tell anybody what's going on. As I said, when I first reported the tweet, Twitter defended it. Then Kanye went after Elon. So Elon deleted the tweet and froze Kanye's account for 12 hours. Then Kanye's account disappeared entirely. And now it's not clear what happened. I think, mind you, Kanye and Elon have each other's private phone numbers. We know this because Kanye went public and published the text message that Elon sent him, which is what pissed off Elon and finally got Elon to give him the 12-hour suspension. I think Kanye went behind, I'm turning off my light here, texted Elon and said, basically, and said something nasty to him. And Elon turned around and said, "That's it. You're banned." That's my guess. Totally sounds like teenagers. Absolutely sounds like teenagers. Yeah. I already did the recap. We're sort of done with the news. Now we're just talking. People wanted to talk about Kanye and the latest. So I'm talking about the latest with that. But absolutely insane what's going on. Additionally, Elon Musk just let back on Twitter today, after I think 8 years, the editor and creator of Daily Stormer, which is the white supremacist Nazi publication here in America. He let the guy back on. This is a guy who is a huge fan of Adolf Hitler. Huge fan, this guy. He wants to tear down the Holocaust Museum in Germany, he said, and build a 1,000-foot monument to Hitler. It is horrific who this guy is. Elon Musk just let him back on. It's insane what's going on over there. It is, honestly, it's exhausting. It's Donald Trump, which is the really fascinating thing too. Elon is Donald. Every day is a new outrage. Every day is Elon being outraged about something he shouldn't be outraged about. Every day is Elon saying something incredibly stupid. Every day it's blowing up in his face. But whereas Donald Trump was Teflon for whatever reason so far, Elon is clearly not Teflon. Things do not just fall off of Elon. Things keep sticking to Elon and causing trouble for him. Elon is really going to have, yeah, bye-bye, crazy person. Elon is really going to have problems with the European Union because America has freedom of speech enshrined in our Constitution, well, Bill of Rights, but the amendments to the Constitution, but it's in the US, that means you are protected against government action infringing your speech or infringing your speech unnecessarily. It does not mean, government protection against the government. That means it is very difficult for the US government to regulate any kind of speech because it is generally protected. So, for example, it is legal to be a Nazi in America. That is legal. And you can go, we had a very famous case here in the Chicago suburbs back in, I want to say, late 1970s, I think it was late 1970s. The Nazis were going to march in a Jewish suburb of Chicago called Skokie. It was and still is a very, very, very Jewish suburb. That's why they chose it. And they were going to march there. Now, mind you, this was like late 1970s. So this was, what, 30 years after World War II? Only 30 years after World War II, okay? I mean, you're still pretty close to it, especially for these people, right? I mean, they were there. Their families were killed there. I mean, their parents were killed there. Their siblings, right? Really, the Nazis wanted to really be rude about it. There was nothing the government could do to stop them because under our Constitution, you can't. Europe does not work that way. Canada does not work that way. And you guys, I was asking you guys before about this, and all the Europeans were coming on and saying from a number, not just Germany, but a number of countries, people were like, oh no, that stuff would not be legal at all. Elon's going to have a real problem with the people he's letting back on Twitter because so far Elon thinks it's okay to be a Nazi on Twitter, and European Union law is going to have a different thing on that. Now, somebody keeps asking, why am I still on Twitter? Because Twitter is incredibly useful for me. I get so much great Ukraine news off of Twitter. I follow about 120 or 140. I've actually made it public for anybody who wants to follow, but about 140 people on Twitter who are just amazing experts on Ukraine. And I love reading it because I'm getting all sorts of little just tidbits of information that help educate me, but also help me educate you. So Twitter at its best is amazingly, amazingly useful. Also, Twitter is a wonderful way to be able to communicate with journalists, with politicians, with other sort of big, important people. It can really be a helpful way, but there's no really good Twitter substitute right now. No. But Elon's destroying it. He's absolutely destroying it. Yeah, hate speech is a crime in Australia. Yeah, hate speech is totally protected here in America. Now, I will say, the one thing you can, John Spencer? You mean he's back? He joined TikTok? Wait, you don't mean Richard Spencer. Who's John Spencer? Richard Spencer is the bad guy, is the white supremacist guy, if that's who you mean. But in any case, Richard, okay, yeah, John Spencer. I was saying John Spencer. Wasn't it like Lady Diana's brother or something? Or hold on a second. Oh God. Well, he's not going to be long for this world if he's on TikTok. Hang on, let me see. Or long for TikTok, I should say. Richard Spencer, TikTok. There's no way they're going to keep him there. There's no way. Are you sure about this? Let me look here. Let me see what's going on with Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer is back on TikTok? No, he's not on TikTok. He's back on Twitter. Richard Spencer is back on Twitter with a blue check mark. Get out of here. Wow. Wow, that's fricked up. Spencer is a literal neo-Nazi, literally a neo-Nazi. Um, wow, that is really screwed up. No, this is bad. This is bad, but I really hope, I am telling you, the other thing you guys can do is, those of you in Europe and Canada, you need to go, ape SHT, as we say here in America. You need to go ballistic on Twitter. You need to make sure that your governments are involved, that your governments are going after Musk for the hate speech, for the Nazis, for all of this stuff. You need to pressure your governments to go. Now, I don't think it'll take much pressure, but we need your guys' help, because in America, there is no legal alternative for us. There's no legal venue because of our Constitution. Hate speech is legal. Private companies can ban it if they want, but Musk has made clear he's cool with it. So we need you guys to cause hell for this. So, all right, I'm going to get going. Since we've been going about an hour and a half, as I said, tomorrow on Discord, for the $25 and up subscribers, I'm going to be having a little video hangout. So join me there, 2 p.m. Eastern time, US. Go to the VIP section, and you'll see the video with John thing. Otherwise, I'm not going to do Discord tonight, only because we've been sitting here for 25 minutes, so I don't want to ruin my voice. But you can go to the Discord. Patreon. Well, the Patreon is the same thing. Basically, on Patreon, the way it works, it's complicated. The way it worked, because up until now, there was no way to charge people for Discord. Discord now has when I say charge people, I mean get contributions. Discord now has a way of doing it. I just sort of joined it, but I don't want to mix it and confuse it. What we've been doing is, you can go to Patreon and just donate if you want, right? Monthly contribution to support my work. But you can link that to Discord, and that will give you, I'm not gonna work this weekend. Other than this, I'm not working this weekend. You can link that to your Discord, and I've got instructions how to do it in my message that's there, the welcome message on Patreon. You link it to the Discord, and it gives you access to a VIP area of basically VIP auction. We've got the regular auction, the VIP auction. And if you donate enough, I'm doing these chats too. So if you haven't linked them, you should. There's instructions, like I said, in my welcome message on Patreon. And actually, Colonel Mustard, Kevin, explained in the comments of my welcome message an even easier way to do it, how to link it to the Discord. So make sure you do that. All right. Let me go, guys. I'm going to go and make some, put a pizza in the oven. But thanks for joining tonight. Thank you for all the gifts. Thank you, moderators. Also, and moderators, obviously, like I said, you're welcome tomorrow. Sort of one of the things, I don't need you tomorrow, so to speak. Like, your work isn't necessary, because it's the nice people tomorrow. We don't worry about the Russians getting in there. But it's my hair is not on point. I'm tired today. But in any case, join me tomorrow at 2 p.m. Okay, and there you go. Why are you making money on people's? Wait, before you ban this person, this is my example of a Russian, by the way. This person's Russian. Why are you making money on people's misery in Ukraine? This is how they basically try to sound American, but they don't do it right. Why are you making? Makin's trying to sound like they're American. Why are you making? They don't have the punctuation. Why am I making? Because I've been doing this full time since you guys invaded and tried to commit genocide. And in order for me to do this full time and defend Ukraine and help save those people and save that country, I need to be able to pay my bills. And my bills cost me $5,500 a month. And I don't make $5,500 a month from this with you guys. So I've actually been subsidizing this to help Ukraine, because that's what I do. So that's why I'm trying to make money on this, because I'd like to pay my bills, and I'd also like to be able to put some money away for retirement someday while helping Ukraine. And you don't like it, and I know why you don't like it, because we know why you don't like it, because the Russians would like nothing better than to exactly. You're losing, dude. My Twitter handle is my last name, Aravosis. Actually, best answer for that is go to the link in TikTok. The link in my profile is the link tree. My Twitter's, everything's there. My Twitter's there. Everything's there. So you could, but it is my last name. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Go make my pizza. I'm hungry, or heat the pizza, not make it actually. But all right, good night, guys. If I don't see you tomorrow, then I'll be back Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern for another installment of the Aravosis Report. All right, bye, you guys.